I'm the type of cat who has generally had issues with nostalgia, always been one to love reminiscing. And as I've gotten older, I've had to remind myself that things are not just about the place. It's not about going back to where I used to live or where I used to hang out or where I used to go to school or whatever, because the place could be the same, but you have to have the time too. It's time and place. And if you can't bring the time back, then the place could be hard to digest. At one point, an older gentleman told me that pictures were no good. He said either things are better now than they were when you took that picture, or things were better when you took that picture than they are now. And either way, they could, looking at pictures could take you into a sadness or a depression. And I kind of believed him. And for most of my adult life, I never even owned a camera. So until camera phones start coming out, there's whole gaps in my life where there's like no pictures. I didn't want to have pictures to remind me of what might have been better or worse. I also have issues with thinking back to certain poetry venues, and keep in mind, I've seen dozens or scores or hundreds of poetry performances and many venues. And there are certain venues that bring back memories, such as there was in the New Eurekan, for some reason, the way the lights were set up, when people would really go at it, the spit from their mouth would look like smoke. And it looked like they were enchanted, or, like they were breathing fire when they really would go at it. And then there were venues in Philly in Baltimore too, I believe, where they would throw pins at the stage. Like if they thought you was ripping it, they'd throw pins. And then in Chicago at Touch of the Past, they would throw money. So imagine my surprise when you rocking it. And I don't mean they throwing like dollar bills, cats is throwing 5s and 10s sometimes, depending on how you move them. But what I remind myself when it comes to nostalgia is that even though you could possibly go back to the place, you can't go back to the time, and that makes all the difference in the world. I can't go back to Dowling's Palace in Philadelphia. For one, they've already ripped down the building. Imagine this was a building that was owned by a black family. They had a club on the first floor and a bigger club, which they had the poetry on the second floor. They served food, drinks, live band, and the energy was magnificent, right? But you can't go back to it. You can go back to that street. You can stand where it used to be, but it's time and place. So I just wanted to mention that one thing that has kind of cheered me up recently with everything that's going on. If I could add like a little positive spark to it, not depress people about time and place, is I've learned that when I watch like the behind the music and the unsung shows, and I'm looking at my favorite bands and seeing how they started and what happened to them, one interesting thing that I found to do is that whenever they bring up the top 40 R&B charts or the hip hop chart or whatever, just pause it and then take a picture of the screen, then go to YouTube and look up some of those records, particularly the ones that you don't really remember well, because you'll find that you can come across some old gems that you had almost forgotten. So it's been a good exercise for me lately. So I figured I would share that with you, just in case you have the same type of nostalgia. Try it out. Let me know what you think.